Well, this morning we're continuing our series called Distracted. Hopefully you've been here each week, because when I started the series I mentioned that it would be very, very beneficial to come each week, because each week kind of builds on the other. So this morning we're going to be looking at saving money, which is really cool, and we'll get into that later. But when it comes to money, I think there are two types of people in this world. You have your savers. How many of you would consider yourself a saver? You save everything, pennies, nickels, dimes, and all that. Just a few of you, but that's good. I admire that. It's tough. I'm not a big saver myself. Now, the other group of people would be what I call the spenders. They have the spiritual gift of spending. And if you fall into that category, would you raise your hand, please? Okay, now, ushers, keep your hands high, okay? Ushers, look around with the people that have their hands raised. Make sure the offering tray doesn't go by them. Make sure the offering tray does go by them later on in the worship service, because these are our spenders. And that means you give a lot of money, right? I hope so. Anyway, we have spenders and we have savers. This morning we're going to talk about saving, because I think in our culture, a lot of people just don't save. For some reason, in our culture, it seems like when we get money, it burns a hole in our pocket until we spend it. We just feel like we have to spend everything we get. Money comes in, we got to get rid of it right now. Whatever it is. $50, oh, I got $50, I'm going to go out and do something with it. And so we typically in our culture have not saved our money. I want to look at a couple Bible verses here, and both come from the book of Proverbs. And I think I can't think of any better place than in the Bible that we can get advice on money. The first one comes from Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 and 8, or 6 through 8. And Solomon writes, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, you lazy person. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler. Yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." Now you've seen this at picnics, I'm sure. There you are, you're eating your fried chicken. You got a chicken leg, that's my favorite part. You got a chicken leg, right? Oh, what happened? It falls on the ground, okay? Now let's say you leave that chicken leg laying on the ground. What happens? The army comes, the ants come in, and they go, chicken! I might have to have some of this for later. So what do? They get their buddies and say, "Come on, we found some chicken. You got to come and help us gather." And that's what they do. They work hard all day long, taking pieces of that chicken back to their den so they can store it up and save it for later. That's the way of the ant. And the Bible says, learn from these little creatures. Learn from these little creatures. They're wise enough to save, to put something away for later. Now let's go over to Proverbs 21 and verse 20. It says, "In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has." The foolish man lives paycheck to paycheck. The foolish man, anytime he gets money in his hands, goes out and spends it on something. He eats everything that's in sight because he's foolish. Now, I don't want to make anybody feel bad that shouldn't feel bad. I know we have some single moms, we have some single dads trying to raise a family, and you're just scratching. We have some Bible! Having kids. Anyway, I hear that every week. So anyway, I know there are some of you sitting out there that are working hard to make ends meet. And I don't want to belittle that at all. And I get that. You're living paycheck to paycheck, but you make minimum wage. I get that. That's fine. I don't want to belittle that. But on the other hand, the statistics I shared with you a couple weeks ago says that at least 55% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And that means we have a lot of foolish people eating up everything they have. A lot of foolish people just aren't saving. They're living paycheck to paycheck. So I want to talk about saving. And as we go throughout this message this morning, the ideas are going to seem really basic, but they're worth mentioning, they're worth covering. And there are three things that we should save for. We'll go through these pretty quickly. There are three things that we need to save for. The first one is we need to save for emergencies. We need to save for emergencies. Okay, now, let me ask a question. Is getting the new iPhone 5C an emergency? Yes. Of course it is. I gotta have the newest electronics, man. It's an emergency. I gotta have it. No, we practiced last week the art of saying no. You remember self-control. No, it's not an emergency. But what's going to happen in your life? You're going to have your plumbing break. You're going to have your car break down. You're going to end up in the emergency room with a sick child, and so on and so forth. Those are the types of emergencies that we really need to be saving up for. Okay? Second thing we need to save for are purchases. Purchases. This might be where the iPhone 5C comes into play. Okay? Maybe you can save it up if you want to. But if you want a new couch, if you want a new outfit, if you want a set of new kitchen cabinets, if you want a mattress, Dawn and I have been saving up for a mattress. We supported the youth group, the high school last Saturday. We bought a mattress from high school. It's pretty cool. It goes to a good house. But we've been saving up for that. We didn't charge it. And that's what we got to do. Save up for our purchases. We know we're going to need something down the road. You save up for it so you don't go into more debt. We pay cash as we go. Okay? Third thing we need to save for is the future. The future. What does that mean for you? Well, if you want your kids to go to college, you don't just send your favorite kid. You probably want all your kids to go to school. So you want your kids to go to college. Guess what? Now is a good time to start saving up. Now is a good time to start saving up, or get your kids to save. I like that idea. Our kids get an allowance, and they're putting money away. We're trying to teach them the value of saving. And we think it's going to work out so we don't have to pay a dime for college. Okay? But if your kids if they have crooked teeth, you know they're going to need braces. Save up for it. That time is coming. If you want to retire someday, you don't want to work to the day you die, now's the time to start saving. Save for the future. The sad thing is, many people aren't saving. They're not saving because, and the bottom line is, they don't know how to prioritize their dollars. How do I prioritize the dollar? That's what we're going to be looking at. There are needs, there are wants, and what's happening these days is that people are buying what they want instead of buying what they really absolutely need. And what's happening? They're going further and further and further and further into debt. And then when an emergency arises, they don't have the money to pay for the things they truly, truly need in life. So what I want to do is spend a little time with you on some practical ideas on prioritizing our dollars. Each month we have a certain amount of money to live on. What comes in, for a lot of us, more than that goes out, it seems like sometimes, doesn't it? How do I really give a priority to what's coming in? Each month we have this certain amount of money to live on. We're going to give a priority to every dollar that comes in from our work, from our retirement, from whatever it is. And we're going to make our money work for us. Okay, so now I want to keep things simple. I'm going to use $100 a month. That's what we make. I know it's not a lot of money, but that's okay. I'm going to use, just to keep things simple, we use $100 a month. So we just got paid this month. And as disciples, as followers and learners of Jesus Christ, we believe that 10%, the first 10%, goes to God. Okay? What God has given us, we believe we give the first 10% right back to God through His church. So our first priority then is the tithe. Now tithe literally means 10% or a tenth. 10%. The first 10% of $100, or what's 10% of $100? Yeah, $10. $10 goes back to God through the church. That's the first priority. Second priority is this. Notice I didn't spend a lot of time on the tithe. Okay, good. All right, second priority, our expenses. Our expenses. You have to eat something. You have to sleep somewhere. But the problem for Americans today, in general, is that our living expenses are getting a little higher than they should be because we're spending money on things that we shouldn't buy. Okay? And that's what's happening. Unfortunately, we have been the foolish man in Proverbs, living paycheck to paycheck. And so, $10 to God, now the remaining $90 has been going to all of our expenses. We have nothing left over to do anything else with. The good news is, this is our third week talking about money in church. This is awesome, right? The good news is, some of the stuff that we've been talking about, you've put that into practice. Okay? You've embraced the value of sacrifice. We talked about how we're going to give up something we love for something we love even more. You embrace the value of self-control. We need to say, we learned to say no for a little while so we can say yes the rest of our lives. You've embraced the value of planning. You've put together a budget. You're telling every dollar where to go. Now we've got a little handle on our money because we've been practicing these things. So with our new values, maybe we sell our car and we get a less expensive one. Maybe we stop drinking those expensive caffeinated drinks. I know for some of you that's really hard. You love your caffeine. I like my caffeine too. It's hard to pass up, okay? We've done something to adjust the cash going out in our lives, okay? So whatever we did, we've managed to cut our expenses, let's say by $20 a month. We're using $100 as our income. Now we've cut our expenses, let's say by $20 a month. So now $10 is our tithe, $70 goes toward our expenses, $20 now we have left over. What do we do with that? Now we've got the priority of the emergency fund. Remember last week we talked about the emergency fund? It's a challenge. How do we get that $1,000 in our account? That's what we're looking at. The goal is to get $1,000 put away for emergencies. So that extra $20 now that we're getting a month just from cutting expenses and that kind of thing, we're going to put into our emergency fund. That's our priority. Okay? And you keep doing this so that in a short amount of time, you'll have your $1,000 emergency fund fully funded and you've accomplished your emergency fund priority. Which means your priority now changes. Cross that one off the list. What's my new priority? Instead of trying to put money into the emergency fund, which is full now, now you've got a new bucket. And it's called the debt bucket. That's our next priority. We replace the emergency fund bucket with the debt bucket. We take care of our debts. We apply the extra $20 a month that we've found to our debts. How does this work? Well, it's payday again. What do? You tithe. 10%, $10. You pay your expenses, $70. And whatever's left over now goes toward your debts. That's $20. Okay? Now, remember last week we talked about the debt snowball? And as we apply our money as we pay off one debt, we go to the next one, we take that money that we've been paying this debt that's paid off now, we apply it to the next debt, and that snowball gets bigger and bigger. You can just imagine the snowball rolling downhill, picking up more snow, getting bigger and bigger, and paying off all this debt. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to get aggressive, and each month we're going to pay down our debt. So what do? We get paid, we tithe, we put our money toward our expenses, and then we put everything toward our debt snowball. We get out of our debts. And here's the great news. If you don't give up, if you hang in there, if you watch for the blessings of God and you put it towards your debt, you become debt-free. Remember we talked about that last week. You become debt-free, except maybe for your house. And now it gets really cool. Now the debt, our priorities change again. Okay, we've got our budget, emergency fund fully funded. We've got our debts paid off. Now our priorities change and they actually shift. Okay, the priority isn't debt. Instead, the new bucket is called invest or build wealth. All right, now here's the cool part. I do believe God blesses you with the tithe. We've been faithful to God with the tithe. And let's say God blesses us with a raise. raise. Okay, we've been making $100 a month, and he says, you know what, Jeremy, I'm going to give you an extra $30 a month. Now your new income is $130 a month. Okay, this is really cool. What do? First 10% goes to God. What's 10% of 130? Okay, good, you're with me. This is awesome. $13, okay? And now the priorities are going to rotate. We give to God first, and then second, we invest for the future. Expenses is in second, investment is second. We got to put that money away. We got to have something for our retirement so we don't have to work anymore. Now we learn to live on the rest of our money that God has left over with us. How do we do this? Let's take 15% of our income and put it into a retirement account. 15%. That's about $20 on $130. That's about $20. It's $19.50 a month. We give to God first, $13. Then we invest the $20 a month, and then let's take care of our expenses. That means we got to learn to live on the rest of that, 75% of our income. For some of us, that's going to be hard, but if we've gotten out of debt, if we've got our emergency built up, it shouldn't be too hard. I think it's achievable. Now, because we've paid off our debts, we have money left over. Now we can give an offering. What's an offering? That's above and beyond that 10%. Now we can give to someone in need. Now we can help feed hungry children. We can invest more. You can even get your nails done with those little polka dots on them, right? And still pretend that guys like that. I don't get it, okay? If we're faithful with what God has given us, He's going to trust us with more. If we're faithful with what God has given us, He's going to trust us with more. So we're going to give up something we love for something we love even more. We talked about that last week. We're going to say no for a little while so that we say yes for the rest of our lives. And if we live like no one else, because no one else in America really is doing this stuff, okay? I'm telling you, this is crazy stuff. If we live like no one else, right now, later on we can give like no one else. That's what's exciting to me. All right, let's talk a few moments about investing. Okay, now, there are two ways basically to make money. Way number one is people make money. People make money, right? We go out and we work hard. Paul gave this rule to the Thessalonians. If a man will not work, he shall not eat. If a man will not work, he shall not eat. I could go off on a whole tangent here, but I'm not going to. Let that sink in for a moment. If a man will not work, he shall not eat. Single ladies, don't go marry a guy with potential. I want you to go marry a guy that's got a J-O-B. Okay? Oh, my guy's got potential. I don't care. Does he have a job? How's he going to take care of you, right? Find a man with a job, all right? Now, if you don't work, Paul says, you don't eat. Plain and simple. If you don't work, you don't eat. You got to work so you can make money, so you can eat. All right? That's people making money. The second way I'm going to spend a little more time on is to have your money making money. How do you have your money making money? If you're putting all your money toward debt, guess what? Your money ain't working for you. It's just not happening. All right? If you could get your interest working for you instead of against you, then your money can actually make money as well. Jesus tells a parable in Matthew chapter 25. Love this parable. He illustrates this very beautifully. He says the master gives 5 talents to one guy, 3 to another, 1 to the third. Remember the guy who got the 1 talent, what did he do? He went out and, he buried it. Lazy. Lazy. Can't believe it. But look at the man with the 5 talents. Jesus says the man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work. And what happened? Gained 5 more. I want to find that. That's pretty good. He doubled his money by putting it to work. He invested his 5 talents, he got 5 more back. There are 2 ways to make money. You can work for your money, or you can have your money working for you. And probably both. How many of you would say, I would love to be a great investor? Wouldn't that be cool? Sit on the computer all day, just put money here, money there. That'd be great. All right, I'm going to give you 3 rules of investing. We'll go through these pretty quickly. There are 3 rules of investing. These rules do come from the Bible. I wouldn't be teaching this if it wasn't biblical, so just pay attention. The first rule of investing is this. Don't invest in things you don't understand. These are, again, plain and simple. These aren't going to be new to many people. Don't invest in things you don't understand. Let's go back to Proverbs. By wisdom, a house is built. Through understanding, it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. Solomon says you need wisdom, understanding, knowledge. Wisdom, understanding, knowledge. You got to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. All right? Watch out for those fly-by-night investors. Those people that say, I can make $1 million in 10 days. You know, what? Come on. All right? Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people, good people to deal with out there. But there are some investors who have no idea what they're doing. There are some people selling investments they wouldn't even buy themselves. That's scary. What I recommend you do, talk to your friends, find out who they've invested with, and get recommendations. Hopefully they won't steer you wrong. But don't invest in something you don't understand. Second rule of investing is this. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Grandma will teach you this, and so will the Bible. Don't put your eggs in one basket. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, give portions to 7, yes to 8. For you don't know what disaster may come upon the land. Solomon says you got to spread it out, right? Don't put all of your money into one thing, because if that one thing falls apart, you're going to be in pretty big trouble. Scary trouble. Dave Ramsey says investing is a lot like manure. If you put manure all in one place, it's going to stink. But if you spread it out, it's going to make things grow. That's what investing is like. Don't invest in things you don't understand. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And third is this. Don't try to get rich quick. Don't try to get rich quick. That's a tough one. Paul tells Timothy this. He says, people who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. Here's a guy out there chasing wealth, trying to find money, trying to get rich quickly. So what happens? He's going to fall into every trap that comes his way. Oh, I just want to be rich, man. I'm going to invest in that, do this. And before you know it, the dude's in debt, and he has no idea how he's going to get out of it. How many of you have ever been trapped by an investment that you thought was a sure thing, that you really didn't understand what you were getting into? Scary, scary, scary times. Maybe you've been approached by someone from Amway, Quickstar, Primerica, some crazy timeshare that promises you to make a fortune in a short time. And I don't want to belittle those guys. There are a lot of people that do really well with those things. Well, just watch out. They give you this big picture dream, and you're thinking, "Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna be a millionaire in like 2 months." Oh, don't try to get rich quick. Don't try to get rich quick. Sometimes the best way to double your money is to fold it over and put it back in your back pocket. All right. Seriously. Don't try to get rich quick. Now, We need to learn to be marathon investors. We need to learn how to stay committed and consistent and faithful. Proverbs 13:11 says, dishonest money dwindles away, but he who gathers money little by little makes it grow. I'll give you a real simple formula. It's written in your outline, sermon outlines this morning. Money plus time plus consistency equals wealth. Money plus time plus consistency equals wealth. Little by little by little, we get there. Tithe. Pay your expenses. Put money in the emergency fund. Pay off debt. Invest long term. Buy some mutual funds. Buy a piece of property that you can rent out with consistency and faithfulness. You'll make your money grow. Just take your time at it. All right, on the back of your sermon outlines, I gave you some kind of cool facts. What if you could save $5 a day? Let's say it's 12% interest. I know that's high right now, but over the long term, that's about what the average is. Let's say you could put $5 away at 12% interest into a retirement account. $5 a day, 12% interest in just 5 years, about over $12,000. 10 years, $34,000. 20 years, $148,000. 30 years, $500,000. 40 years, $1.7 million. Young kids, if you're not 20 years old yet, when you're 20 years old, if you put $5 away for 50 years, when you're 70 years old, almost $6 million. $5 a day. How badly do you need that cup of caffeine? $5 a day. Look at the next one. If a 30-year-old made $48,000 a year, and let's say this poor guy never gets a raise. He makes $48,000 a year for the rest of his life. That's what he makes. Who knows why? Maybe he's not good at what he does. I don't know. But he makes $48,000 a year, never gets a raise. He manages to save 15% of his income each month, $600 a month, and he puts it into a 401k. Let's say he makes on average 12% interest. By the age of 70, in 40 short years, he's going to have over $7 million in 40 years. Boy, I hope the young people are getting this morning. I missed it, guys. I totally missed it. I'm 38 years old. Totally missed it. It's not over yet. Start now. Start now. Now, some of you are thinking, like I said, there's no way I'm going to earn 12%. What if I'm half wrong? That's $3 or $4 million. Right? You're still rich. What do you think you can do with that? Holy mackerel. If you're faithful with little, God will trust you with much. It's in the Bible. I asked you earlier, how many of you would like to be a great investor? I pray that every single one of you would learn to be great investors. And that you would become massively rich. Not for me, not for this church building, but for the kingdom of God. I pray that every single one of you become great investors and that you become rich. But don't forget, money is not the only thing that we invest. It seems like the only thing sometimes. Where am I going to get more? How am I going to pay my bills? I can't even tithe on Sunday morning. What am I going to do? Money, 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 money. That's what we go to bed worrying about at night. What keeps you up at night? Chances are it's probably money. But money isn't the only thing. Jesus came to this earth, lived as a man. You didn't see him saving up for his Corvette that he could have when he retired. Camel. Jesus invested in people. He invested in people. He invested in the kingdom of God. Although he wasn't financially rich when he was here, he was rich in the things that matter most. I pray with everything in me that you will invest in the things that matter most. Money is just one small piece in life, a tool that we can leverage for the glory of God. Invest in people. Invest in your marriage. Some people are worried about where their next paycheck's coming from and how much is going to be in it. They really probably should be worrying about their wife walking out or their husband walking out. Invest in your marriage. Invest in your children. Invest in your church. When you invest consistently over time, I pray that you're blessed with a rich marriage where you seek God, where you fight fair, where you have fun, where you stay pure, where you never give up. I pray that you have a godly heritage for your kids who know the Lord. I thank God that my grandfather showed up in this church, I don't know how many years ago. I wouldn't be here today. What kind of heritage, legacy can you leave if you just invest in people? I pray that you've got tremendous friendships with other people with whom you can serve God. I pray that you're rewarded as you invest in your church and that you use your gifts to make a difference for His kingdom. By the way, if you happen to do get financially rich, and I hope that you do, because you can do a lot more for the kingdom and for people of God, I pray that you remember that it's not for you. It's not all for you. It was from God. The Bible teaches very clearly everything is God's. Everything belongs to Him. He's just letting us borrow it for a little while. It's His. So remember, all that money that you're going to make because some crazy guy from Kenmore taught you how to invest money? I don't know if I should be taking advice from this guy. No, seriously, if you do get rich, remember, it's from God. It's His anyway. He can take it whenever He wants, but use it for His kingdom and His glory forever and ever. Why talk about money in church? This is crazy, man. I can't believe I'm talking about some of this stuff I never heard in my lifetime. I know you probably never heard in your lifetime. My grandfather was here last week. He stopped me in the hallway and says, you know, if somebody would have taught me this 70 years ago, it would have been a whole lot different. I wish somebody had. Why do we talk about money in church? Managing money is one of the most spiritual things that we can do. It's one of the most visible outward evidences of where our heart is spiritually. What we do with what God has trusted us with matters. Learn to prioritize your dollars. What do? We get paid. So we tithe. We pay our expenses. We set up our emergency fund. We pay off our debts. And we invest our money.